everybody. Today I am going to be doing one of my baller on a budget recipes. Now this is using almost entirely leftovers. So let me explain. I'm going to be making a breakfast bread pudding, which you can then use to make French toast. Now what I'm doing is I'm using these pastries, which are mostly leftover coffee cake, and there's also some croissant in here. I put them on a baking sheet at I did 300 for 10 minutes, but you can do 250 for a little bit longer. I was just kind of impatient. And I did the same thing with these brioche rolls, which I got from Farmhouse Delivery. So what I'm gonna do is just do a little sprink of these delightful treats, and then put the amazing Yummo desserts on top. So really after this, all I'm doing is kind of making sure that there's no areas where there's way too much and not enough. All right, so it should look something like this delightfulness. So this means that when I cut these pieces, there's gonna be a good mixture of both brioche dough and the sweet dough as well. Okay. After this, I used more leftovers. So this custard is actually basically everything that I had left over from my pumpkin pie recipe. So there is some sweetened condensed milk, some evaporated milk. I had extra pumpkin, so half a can of pumpkin. And I whisked that together over low heat with nutmeg, cinnamon, cloves, ginger. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to add 2 whole eggs and then 2 just yolks to this. Now the eggs I'm using are from Farmhouse Delivery. They're Texas pasture raised, and they come in cool colors. So what I like to do is, because this was a little bit warm, I left these out for a few. So when I whisk them in, I don't get scramby eggs. I also, because I'm afraid of shells, use the bowl to make sure that I don't have any accidental shell bits in here. And I store my shell bits in the box, so it's easier for me to get rid of them. All right, so there's my 2. Now let's yolk it up. I enjoy this because it is super messy. Sorry, I'm going off camera for a second, but all right. It's weird to get the gooey yolk part. It reminds me of, did you ever make slime as a kid? It reminds me of that. Okay. Last one, I'm gonna put these 3 in. And then this last guy, I can do in front of you. So basically all you do is you just play with it in your hands until all of the rest of the gunk falls down and you're left with just an adorbs little yolk. And that was good because this one had some grossness in it. So go team. All right, so I'm gonna actually rinse my hands real quick. All right, so now I'm going to just whisk these bad boys together. Now, like I said, I cooled this mixture for a little bit because the last thing you want is to get scramby eggs, right? You want this to be a custard that bakes over time. Now, when I was seasoning this, a lot of times you can put sugar in this custard. I did not because there's already sweetened condensed milk in it. I also did not because my coffee cake alone, which by the way, even after you crouton it, still freaking delicious. So, I want to keep eating you, but I should talk to the people. Okay, so then what you do is you just slowly pour this deliciousness over the bread mixture. Okay? Now, time is our friend on this. So what's gonna happen, also I don't wanna waste any of this, so I'm just gonna keep letting gravity do its thing. What you're gonna do is you're gonna soak this overnight. That is going to make this custardy goodness soak in to all of the delicious bread. Now, one helper that I do for that, I do two things. Number one, give a little massageroo, make sure all the pieces are covered. Like over here, they're not covered, and that shall be fixed, okay? So that's thing one. I don't really care about perfection as far as what the top looks like or the exact ratio of delicious dessert bits to the brioche buns, also from Farmhouse, because all of it is delicious. However, I would be sad if there were pieces of bread pudding that did not have custard on. So now what I'm gonna do after this is done is take the parchment paper that I used, gotta move my snack piece, the parchment paper that I used to roast this, I capped. So that way what I can do is push it on top. Now here you gotta apply a little pressure, and it's easy to do because you've got this barrier, right? Now, I'm gonna take this delightfulness and I'm going to wrap it up until tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to bake it at 350 for about 35 minutes-ish. I'll check on it to be sure. And then I'm gonna let it cool for a bit, cut it into 4 pieces, and turn these puppies into French toast. So when you see me in pajamas tomorrow, finishing this, it's because it's brunch, y'all. All right, I'll see you later. All right, so through the magic of television, it is tomorrow. So I'm actually going to be doing 2 things at once. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is oven baking some bacon. I don't know if you know this trick, but if you start with a cold oven and then you warm up the bacon, it gets super crispy. I also use this pan, which is either used for this recipe, which is not really a full recipe because it's literally, I just keep checking it until it looks done, or I use it for wings, and that one is on my blog post for Thanksgiving. So these go into a cold oven, and because this recipe is for 350, that's what it's going to be at. Usually I do like 365. Okay. So now the exciting part. Now, because this is a baller on a budget recipe, I am going to save these cling wraps, which I can then use to wrap the 2 leftover pieces. I have not peeked at this, by the way. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, bring this closer to the camera. As you can tell, the pumpkin-y custard is all up in here. It is a full solid now. I'm so excited. So what's going to happen is I'm going to put this in the oven once it reaches 350 for 50 minutes. Then I'm going to let it cool for a little bit and cut it into 4 slices. 2, John and I will be having for breakfast as a French toast. So next time you see me, we're going to be ready for some French toast. Stay tuned. Reached our final product, which is this beautiful pumpkin custard bread pudding. You can see it's kind of orangey and delicious looking. Also, because this is a baller on a budget recipe and I'm pretty cheap, I keep the eggs that I dip the French toast in, and then I just serve them as delicious, slightly sweet eggs. Sometimes alongside with what we're eating, if it's like a brioche French toast, but this is quite substantial. So what I'm going to do is top this with some fresh berries. I cut these up off camera because my knife skills aren't that great. I don't think that would wow any of y'all. And then, as you can see, the whipped cream that I made for the pumpkin pie is starting to turn just back into cream. So this is kind of the last day I can use it. So just put a liberal dollop of that on, if you will. Still delicious. All right, so now the last thing that I see people do on videos, I'm not sure why, because you can't actually taste this, but here we go. Bite of everything. I made the right choice. I was nervous because this is very much a excuse to put a liberal amount of powdered sugar on something, but the sweetness of the custard and the cream, chef's kiss. Wannabe chef's kiss. All right, thanks for spending time with me.